Hello. Oh, I'm so excited. Another day. Another day. I'm part of my positivity. Um, Hi guys, it's Paula. I'm Paula Lynch. For those of you who are new to the show, this is part of my positivity where we focus on finding happiness and positivity in your everyday life. And I am your host, Paula Lynch. I am an accountant by day, a bartender by night, and a happy chick all the time. Not because life is easy, but because I choose to be happy. So, in my desire to have a happier life, I created some social media pages and this podcast to help other people try to get there too. So, welcome to my show. The point of this show is to talk about issues in life where they might be sticky and ways to get through them and tips on how to choose happy. Usually, I have a special guest and they help me talk to everybody about the topic of the week, which could be uh, dealing with a narcissist or loving yourself through your sticky days. But this week I do not have a special guest. My special guest was unable to come, and I thought about getting rid of the show, but all week long I was reminded of a special anniversary that happened this week, happened yesterday actually. Yesterday was the 3-year anniversary of my being single. And while that might not sound like an especially happy anniversary for some people, for me, it really was the beginning of my journey of being happy and loving myself. So, while for the first 2 years that I was single, I really myself didn't recognize it as a happy anniversary. But this year, and we'll talk about that during the show today, this year I really saw it as growth for myself. And I made a lot of progress in the last year. So, how the show usually works, I have a guest, and you're free to write in on social media and interact. Sometimes we have a call in number and you can ask questions. So, if you happen to be on my page, on my personal page on Facebook, then feel free to pop some comments in there as we're talking, and I will address them as we go through. So, uh, I have a special anniversary this week. It's the anniversary of me being single, and I decided that if I don't have a guest host, I'll celebrate the fact that I'm single and host the show by myself. So, we changed the topic of what was going to happen this week, and we are making the show all about the science of singledom, how to be happy when you're single. So, this is, well, it's a topic that I've been dealing with for a couple years. And for some of you, it might be a new topic that you're just coming into. You're just coming into being single. But I want to point out that the topic is, the things we're going to cover tonight are not just for single people. You can apply them to your life if you're in a relationship too, because it's largely going to be about loving yourself. And we all could love ourselves a little bit more. So let's get into the science of being single. The big thing that we ask ourselves is, why can't I seem to find the right one? Why can't I find love? Why can't I find him or her, they? And the real answer, regardless of any philosophy, any science you put into it, any therapy you put into it, is the real answer is you're not finding the right person because you don't love yourself. There's an old saying that's like, no one can love you unless you love yourself, and it's true, but not because people won't love you unless you love yourself, because we seek out unavailable people when we don't love ourselves, when we don't believe that we deserve love, so we're attracted to, we stay with, we seek out people who are unavailable to us. And maybe they're unavailable to us because they're in a relationship already. Maybe they're unavailable to us because they have commitment issues. Maybe they're unavailable to us because they're too far away. There's a lot of reasons why someone would be unavailable to you emotionally or otherwise. But when you don't love yourself, you find yourself connected to or attracted to people who are never gonna be able to fill a relationship with you. So you'll constantly be struggling to make that work because internally you do not believe you deserve to be loved. Hi, Debbie Brew. I see you pop up there. Love when you come in. Welcome, welcome. She said hi. Well, I also have Jennifer popped in and Jason popped in. So thanks for watching, guys. So tonight we are going to focus on self-love and how to love yourself, because you're never going to find the right person if finding the right person is your goal. You're never going to find the right person unless you can love yourself. So what is self-love? And quite simply, self-love is accepting yourself as you are, flaws and all, and I'm talking about personality traits. We're not talking about things you do. Like if you're a smoker and you don't like that you're a smoker, you believe that being a smoker causes problems for you, then you can quit being a smoker, right? But if you're, for instance, I'm a people person, that's a core part of who I am. I can't change that I'm a people person. Well, I shouldn't change that I'm a people person. I love that about myself. So we're talking about personality traits, loving your personality traits, not necessarily loving things that you do. So now that you know what self-love is, why don't we love ourselves? And you could come up with 1,000 reasons why you don't love yourself. You don't love yourself because you were taught that it's selfish to love yourself and put yourself first. You don't want to alienate other people, so you don't love yourself. You worry too much about what other people think, so you don't love yourself. But the truth of the matter is, with all of those things, the point, the easy answer is we are not taught to love ourselves. We are actually taught to love everybody else, to give so much stuff to everyone else, but we are never taught to love ourselves. It is actually more common that we confuse self-love with narcissism, right? That we are taught that self-love is selfish, and that is not the case. Self-love is necessary to have healthy relationships, but we are actually taught that self-love is a bad thing. So I'm going to be completely upfront and honest. My journey is largely successful because I happen to know someone who loves himself very much. And I used to tease him all the time. And I used to introduce him to people like, well, of course, this is my friend Bob, and nobody loves Bob more than Bob loves Bob. He has the most self-love out of anyone I've ever known in my entire life. And he still loves himself very much. It's not that he doesn't love other people, but he is very proud of who he is. And even his sticky points, he knows he can be a jerk sometimes, but he recognizes he can be a jerk sometimes. And he loves himself even when he's a jerk. He tries not to let that take over his days. But in knowing him and watching him and learning from him, I actually learned a lot about loving myself, right? So he was helping to teach me the things I never learned, because I learned that you don't love you love everybody else, and then your self-worth is based off of how much they love you, which is the wrong way to go. So thank you to that friend, Bob, for teaching me how to love me and be a better me. So before we get into, and remember, if you have anything to say, hi, Jojo. If you have anything you want to talk about or interject, please just pop right in and pop a comment on my personal page, Paula Lynch. Alrighty, so before we get into how you can love yourself, let's talk about some important signs, because maybe you're not sure that you don't love yourself. Maybe you think you love yourself, or maybe you think it's not a problem. So let's talk about some signs that you might need to change things up and give yourself some more self-love and appreciation. So one of the signs is you're needy. This was one of the signs for me. I'm very needy. Well, not so much anymore. Not needy anymore. I was very needy, very, very needy. And I needed people to pay attention to me all the time. If you didn't text me back in 2 minutes, I must have done something wrong. So if you feel that way, then you might need some more self-love. If you're in dramatic relationships, you really focus on the bad things in your relationship. I can relate to this. Your significant other is hiding their phone, so you become hypersensitive to the fact that they're hiding their phone, and you look for things like that all the time, hiding their phone, or not being home on time, or talking to a person that you don't think they should talk to. If you're so focused on those things in your relationships, then you probably don't love yourself a whole lot, and you need to love yourself some more. Eating disorders. This is a big one, especially coming from me and my family. I suffered from eating disorders in my lifetime. I still suffer from eating disorders, and but I'm not talking about anorexia and bulimia exclusively. We are talking about any time you control the food that goes in your body, not based on your dietary need. So when you don't love yourself, you constantly do things to make other people love you, because your self-worth is based off of other people loving you. Hi, TJ and Julio. So when you can't control if people love you, then you try to control things like the food that goes into your body. So you binge eat, or you don't eat, because that you can control. And you feel like, if I'm a little skinnier, then they'll love me. If I have more curves, then they'll love me. So you try to control those things. Another sign that you might not love yourself is you have poor communication. Now, this was something that was really bad for my ex-husband. He was constantly concerned with the right thing to say, because he didn't love himself. I recognize that now. Back then, I thought all he did was love himself. But I realize now that he really kind of hated himself. And one of the signs was the fact that he could not communicate. And he couldn't communicate because he was constantly having a battle in his brain with what is the right thing to say. So when you're constantly battling in your head with what's the right thing to say, what's the right move to make, then you simply stop communicating with people, because it's easier to not talk than to say the wrong thing. So if you're finding, you would rather not have relationships than communicate with people, then you probably need to look at how much you love yourself. Because if you love yourself, then you're more confident in the words that are coming out of your mouth. You're more willing to compromise and communicate, because you're not fearful that they'll stop loving you. All of these signs basically are signs that you're afraid that other people won't love you. Perfection. So many friends that suffer from this, and family members too. Everything has to be absolutely perfect, and if it can't be absolutely perfect, it's nothing. all or nothing, and you miss the slightest thing, then maybe people won't love you. So you feel obsessed with making things perfect, you might need to learn more self-love. Lack of assertiveness. This is not one I suffer from. This is never one I've ever suffered from, but I completely understand my friends who do suffer from it. You're afraid to speak up for yourself. You're afraid to let people know how you feel. And you're afraid to do these things because you're afraid that people you communicate those things to won't love you. And I don't know, earlier this week, a friend of mine was afraid that they would say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing in the relationship with me. And I said, well, that's the least that you have to worry about, because I am going to tell you if you're not doing things the way you should in a relationship with me. So you don't have to worry about making a wrong move, because when you make a wrong move, I'm going to be like, hey, I don't like when you do that. So if you want to continue to be friends with me, don't do that thing. And after being assertive and telling him that if you want to have a relationship with me, I'm gonna say these things to you, and I feel like he felt a little bit better, and I definitely felt a little bit better. And the other way, the last way that you can tell that you might need some self-love is if you're faking it all the time. This is harder for me because I am a true advocate for fake it till you make it. I tell people all the time, when you smile, right? These muscles that you use to make that smile on your face, they actually trick your brain, because your brain feels the muscles being used and your brain says, oh, we must be happy. Release happy juice. And it puts all kinds of happy juice in your brain. And then that makes you really smile. So you actually fake the smile and got a real smile because of how our bodies are made up. So fake it till you make it is actually good advice in a lot of avenues. But if you're finding that you're faking it all the time and you're not genuinely smiling ever, or genuinely happy, or really engaging in your own life, then you probably need to engage in some more self-love. So it sounds funny to say self-love. I know. People who know me in real life, every time I'm saying it, you're laughing to yourself, and it's okay, because I love that part of me too. So I just want to remind you that we're talking about personality traits that we want to adjust and recognize, not things that you do. Remember, you can change things that you do. You cannot change who you are, not your core, who you are. So when you start to love yourself, you'll actually start to redefine your characteristics. So we'll give you an example. We'll talk about my characteristics, because of course I'm the best example for me. So prior to backstory for newbies to the page and newbies to the podcast, 3 years ago my husband left, and for 2 years I kind of flip-flopped back and forth and was trying to figure out where I belonged in this world, because prior to him leaving, I had never been single for more than 2 weeks in my entire life. Yeah, 2 weeks since I was 15. So for 30 years, I had never been single more than 2 weeks. And I really had a hard time finding my footing and figuring out how to be a single person and how to love myself. So then about a year ago, I was at a little more than a year ago now, I was at a really bad point where I because I couldn't find my footing and I couldn't find any happiness, I kept losing the things that were precious to me. I lost a really important relationship. I wasn't finding fulfillment in my jobs. I had given up a lot of my volunteering, and I was really in a bad spot. And then I decided that I was going to make my happiness and me the focus, and figure out what happiness meant to me and how I could have the best possible life for me. So a year ago, I defined my characteristics differently than I do now, because in the last year, really in about 9 months, I made tremendous strides in my self-love and in my happiness, because I really focused on, you know, being happy. And it's like any other job, right? You can build a house in 3 months if you really are dedicated and you put the effort in and the time and the money into building a house. You can build a house in 3 months. You can build an excellent house in 3 months, right? But you can also take 13 years to build the same house if you just give it a little bit of attention now and then. So it depends on how much work and effort you're willing to put into it. So in the last 9 months, I changed my opinion of myself and changed the definitions of my characteristics. So my characteristics, a year ago, I would have defined myself as needy and loud. So because I'm loud. TJ, if he's still watching, he knows how loud I am, because I can be ridiculously loud and boisterous and take over a room, right? And I would see them as negative traits. In fact, every once in a while now, when I get a little loud, I'm like, whoosh, I need to dial that back because it's a bad thing. But now I would change needy and loud to I'm a happy people person, which is a good thing. Being a people person and being happy is a good thing. Being needy and loud, not necessarily a good thing. A year ago, I would have defined myself as emotional. I know 3 years ago, my ex-husband would define me as emotional. But now I recognize myself as empathetic and compassionate, right? A year ago, I would have recognized myself as controlling, because I was. But now I see it more as I have leadership qualities. I'm a good leader, not just controlling. And a year ago, I would have said I'm a horrible overthinker. But now I can say that I'm analytical and problem solving. So the way you see yourself, once you're practicing self-love and you accept all of you and you love all the parts of you, including the ones that aren't necessarily seen as positive things, if you can love all of you, then that's self-love. So you'll see yourself differently. You'll feel it differently. You'll see everything different as you begin to love yourself. I got Michelle is watching and Julio is watching and Doug is watching. Thank you guys for tuning in with me. So we have signs on if you need to love yourself more, if you're worried that people don't love you, you're not worth it. So let's talk about how you can love yourself more. Let's actually talk about ways to love yourself. All right, so this is we love our little list here. It's a 13 number list. My dad follows the page, and when I put bullet points, it's his most favorite thing because he loves it. So 13 list, and this one is, the first one is stop comparing yourself to others. Imagine that, not comparing yourself to others in the world of competitive sports and reality TV and keeping up with the Joneses. How do you not compare yourself to others? But that's one of your biggest problems if you can't love yourself, because you're not meant to live their life. You don't know what their journey is or what their struggles are. You know, you can't set your life clock by their timer. Some people, I had my children very young and I had grandchildren at a young age. I have friends who are my age and have children the age of my grandchildren. It doesn't mean that they did it wrong or that I did it wrong. We just have a different story. You know, I'm an accountant / bartender who has a podcast. It doesn't mean that the person who works at the gas station has less of a life. It just means their life is different. You can't keep comparing yourself to everybody else, or you'll never find happiness. Next one, number two is don't worry about what other people think. So you'll hear me say this all the time. How other people feel about me is not my problem. All I can do is be me to the best of my ability. I be me. I make sure that I'm giving my life 100% all the time. And if people don't like that, if people don't like me, they don't have to be a part of my life. I don't need their acceptance to love myself. And that's where it really comes in to this particular episode, is that, other people's opinions don't matter, because if they don't love you, you're still worth love. So don't let other people's opinions bother you. Number three, allow yourself to make mistakes. Now, this is an important one because we all have sticky days. We all have days where we trip. But we have this thing where we set goals for ourselves, and then when we fail a little bit, we consider it this huge failure, and we give up because we can't. It's all or nothing. That's how we're taught. It's all or nothing. So we say, I'm gonna go on this special diet, and I'm only gonna eat salads, and at night I'm gonna have a sensible dinner, and I'm gonna have a Slim Fast shake for lunch, and that's how I'm going to lose weight, is to do this diet. And you do really good on your diet for a week. You do really good on your diet for 2 weeks. But then, you find out some horrible news and you eat 2 slices of pizza and a whole half gallon of Haagen-Dazs and a couple of Oreos. And you're like, man, I blew it. I'm done. I give up on this diet. I'm never going to be the weight I want to be, because you failed one day. We all make mistakes. We all trip, and when we trip, it doesn't matter that you tripped. What matters is how you handle after you've tripped. Because when something goes wrong, you can't go back and change what went wrong. All you can do is go forward. So you trip and make a mistake, you do the wrong thing, you make up for it, you fix it, and you do better the next day. That's it. There's no part two. There's no second option. There's no, what else do you do? Because everything else is just wrong. You make a mistake, you try to make up for it, and you do better the next day and move on. You can't sit here and be like, oh, if I hadn't done it, beating yourself up over something that's gone. It's done. There's no time machine. Let it go. All right. 4, value is not in looks. So try to focus on value is not in looks. And this is one where it can be really hard in today's society. And this is a hard one for me, not to sound a little hypocritical, because I get my nails done every 2 weeks, and I love to have my hair 4 different colors. And because a lot of I had bariatric surgery and breast augmentation. So how do I sit here and say that your self-worth is not based on your looks? But my self-worth, I don't connect my self-worth to my looks. My bariatric surgery was, I won't lie, I'm glad now. I'm happier with the body I have now. I can do more, and I'm as a single woman considered traditionally attractive. So I won't lie that I'm not grateful that I lost weight. I never want to lie to any of you, to anyone, about that. I'm happy that I'm healthier and fit now. But the surgery was largely because I had a heart attack scare, and the doctor told me I wasn't going to make it to 65. All right. But my breast augmentation, that was strictly to feel better about how I looked. It really was. Because when you lose half a person, you look in the mirror and you're not happy with what you see, you want to change that. So I changed that. And so being happy with how I look is one of the things I struggle with very much. May not seem that way outwardly to people, but I love my personality. I think I'm freaking stellar, and I'm smart, and I'm kind, and I'm a lot of things, but I still look in the mirror a lot of times and don't see an attractive person. I have a lot of emotional damage related to my looks, and I'm still working through that. So this is a good point to say to everybody that your emotional journey in loving yourself does not have a finish line. As you start loving yourself, you'll more and more feel like you're getting closer to being better. But that line moves constantly because everybody can love themselves more. Everybody has room for more self-love, right? So in my particular journey, not putting value into looks is somewhere where I really have to learn to love myself more, because of my history, of my emotional damage. So 4 is really important to me. All right, 5, let go of toxic people. Whew, this is one I say all the time. We had an entire episode about letting go of toxic people, and I will say it until I'm blue in the face, blue in the face. You are not obligated to keep relationships with people who take your happy. It doesn't matter if the people are related to you. It doesn't matter if you're promised to stay with the people your entire life because you married them or made a committed relationship with them. It doesn't matter if you've known the person for years and years and years. If people are toxic, if people steal your happiness away, you do not have to maintain relationships with them. This is true of things too. You don't have to keep doing things that bring you down. You don't have to. There are some responsibilities that you have that have to be taken care of, but you don't have to do them in a way that brings you down, right? I was telling somebody the other day that there are certain things that I hate to do. Like I hate to clean my house. So some lady cleans my house because I would rather take on another client and do 10 extra hours of accounting so she can come to my house and clean my house because I hate to clean my house. So it brings me down to clean my house. Rather work another job than do that. All right. Process your fears. So this is number 6, process your fears. This is really what you need to do is understand your fears. So are you afraid of being alone? Why are you afraid of being alone? What is the root of these feelings that you have? And when you can recognize why you feel a certain way, then it's easier to fight those things. And it can be really hard to do that kind of soul searching because you have to accept all the stickiness from your past. You have to look at yourself and admit, these are the bad things that happened to me. So I, for most of my life, was very afraid of being alone. I mentioned earlier that I had never been single for more than 2 weeks in my entire life. So the thought of being alone was absolutely terrifying for me. And it wasn't until I could love myself that I could appreciate being alone. It was so bad for me that I couldn't even stand like when nobody was home in my house. My kids were all out, my husband was at work. It would upset me that I was alone in my home, not not a lone single, just a lone period would upset me, because so much of my self-worth was attached to how much people love me. And I know that this was largely attached to feelings of abandonment as a child, feeling not being accepted in my teenage years, and then being in a relationship for 20 years where I was basically told I wasn't good enough for 20 years. I really was terrified that if I wasn't with them, nobody would ever love me again. So, process your fears, really look at them and admit to yourself why things can be hard for you. What's next? Trust your decisions. So we're on number 7 from my dad. Number 7. Shout out to Ron, Dave, Tommy. Hi, Tommy. Yanisa, Vinny, Randy. So many new people coming in tonight. I'm so glad. Yay. Thanks. And remember, guys, you can pop up comments if you have something to say. Please, those of you who know me in real life, stop sending me messages on my phone, because I'm not going to go on my phone and check my messages right on the page in the comments. All right. So number 7 is trust your decisions. So this is another one of these things where you can't go backwards, right? So in your life, let's say you struggled with if you should buy a new car, and then you decide on the new car and you buy a new car, and you buy a 2022 whatever. I drive a minivan, a Nana van, so buy a 2022 minivan. And I buy it, and then something happens and my finances change, whatever, my job changes or whatever. And so I cannot change the fact that I bought the van, right? So I have to just let it go because it's already done, right? So a lot of times you can't even gauge what'll happen. Like in the instance I just gave, your financial situation changed. So you have regret about your decision because you didn't foresee your financial situation changing. But when you make a decision like to switch jobs or not, or you make a decision to move, or even smaller decisions, you make a decision to change the way you eat, that's not near as all consuming as buying a new house, where you decide you're going to do keto. Trust the decisions that you make and let them run their course, because if you don't trust yourself, how do you expect anybody else to trust yourself? If you're constantly second guessing yourself, how is anybody else gonna trust the decisions that you make? So you have to be more confident. That means trusting the conclusions you came to. I'm not saying just bounce all over the place. Don't do research and buy the first toaster oven you see if you're the type of person who needs to examine toaster oven. But once you've done your bit and made the decision and bought the toaster oven, just make the toast. All right. What else? Number 8, seize opportunities. I really like this one because in the last year, my life has dramatically changed after I decided that I wanted to focus on happiness. So I just keep seizing opportunities left and right. And it has put me in a place where I'm the happiest person most people know. So I found myself with extra time, and I had the opportunity to take a bartending course. So took a bartending course, and I had an opportunity to work at a pub in a bowling alley. So I took that opportunity, and had the opportunity to make friends at that bowling alley and hang out with people from that bowling alley and develop relationships with those people at the bowling alley. And started my page, Glitter Shoes and Happiness Too, on Facebook. I had an opportunity to do that, which then created an opportunity for a podcast. So when these things pop up, take them. Almost 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to work with a realty company. One, I learned I don't really like working in realty. It's not my cup of tea. It didn't bring me a whole lot. It was not down the path of stuff that I like to do, but I learned from it, and I developed relationships from it, and I learned new skills. So, I seized that opportunity, even if in the end I didn't wind up being a realtor. I did wind up learning a lot about myself and about realty in general. So seize the opportunities around you. Put yourself first. That's number 9. So this goes along the same lines as self-love is confused with selfish. And we also did an entire episode with my friend Jen about you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So if you keep giving and giving and giving to everybody else, then you don't have anything left for yourself. And eventually you get burned out and you can't keep giving to anybody else. So you have to make sure that you're fulfilling your needs and your happiness before you can help everybody else. Let's see what's next. Let emotions do their job. So you'll see this on my personal page with my ponderings a lot. So people will write to me when they see that I'm having bad days, when I'm having sticky days. They'll be like, oh, you poor thing, I hope things get better. And I struggled for a long time writing the bad stuff down, right? Sharing with you guys the bad days, right? But I felt like, and I still believe, that it's important for me to recognize my sticky days just as much as I recognize my happy days. Now, admittedly, I have more happy days than bad days. I engineered it that way. That's been my goal, to have more happy days than bad days. But there's still days that are sad. You can't help that there will be days that are sad, or there will be days that you're angry, or sometimes I get really jelly because there's things that people have that I don't think they deserve to have, and I think I should get to have those things, and I have to curb those negative emotions. And so I have to let those emotions do their job in order to get back to happy town. Now, sadness most definitely has a place. Sadness is how you process pain, how you process death. You really have to let sad take its spot. Anger, in my opinion, and I am not a professional, but anger to me is more of a wasted emotion. You're supposed to feel anger. You have to still let anger do its job. You get angry for a reason, right? And anger is supposed to trigger you to make changes, right? So maybe it's an immediate change, something you got to do immediately, like, react to the guy who cut you off in traffic. But what happens is we let anger linger, and we hold grudges, and we stay angry for a long time. So while anger is a valuable emotion, all the emotions are valuable and all the emotions have their place, right? But while they all have their place, anger to me is more wasted. I've experienced it for that moment, get the cue you need to make a change, and then let it go. Because when you stay angry, when you hold a grudge, the only person you're hurting is you. You're not hurting the person who actually caused you to be angry. So when somebody hurts you, you being mad at them for 10 days doesn't affect them. It only affects you. Before I go to number 11, I have a question from Julio Rivera. Paula, how does your ex-husband and kids feel about you coming on and telling your experience with marriage, home life, and whatnot? Well, My kids are incredibly supportive. While they're not on every single episode, most of my family actually watches a lot. And I have 4 kids, but I have 8 surviving brothers and sisters and wonderful parents, and they watch and support me all the time. When the episodes first started and I had call-ins, the call-ins a lot of times were my family being supportive people and asking questions. My granddaughter even would call in just to say she's watching me on the TV. So my kids are very supportive of me talking about these things and sharing my stories and healing and helping other people heal. Part of me wants to say that it doesn't matter if they or my ex-husband likes it or not, because it's something that I need to do. But I'm lucky that all of them are supportive of it. Even my ex. I don't talk to him about it all the time, but last we did talk about it. He watches as well, because hearing the show helps him with his healing. Now, the 2 of us are recognized that what we had was not healthy, and that both of us needed to love ourselves more and heal. And so I'm glad, I'm thankful that he is helped by my show. So I have another question popped up. And now that I read it, it's not really a question, but thank you, Mark. Paula, how does it feel to be a badass? Love you and proud of you for being your best self. And that's like my bestie, Mark, who moved so far away. It broke my heart, but no. Hugs and kisses to all my stankies up there. Ella, Macy, Nolan, Tiff, Mark. I love you guys. Larry and all the crew. Thank you for watching my show. Let's see, there we go. Yeah, you asked about if my kids and my ex, how they feel about it, but not only are they supportive, but I've got supportive friends too who have been with me for the long run and knew me before my transition, where happy was just a little sparkle and now freaking annoying. All right, moving on to number 11, ways to love yourself. Speak up. And speak up, because if you don't tell people how you feel, they can't know how you feel. What's the worst thing that happens if you tell somebody how you feel? They don't care, and then you move on, because you're allowed to remove people who remove your happiness. So big key to loving yourself, big key to life in general, is if you don't tell people what they're doing wrong, they can't fix it. So you can't be mad at people for not addressing issues if you never tell them what the issues are. And you have to be brave enough to communicate those things. Appreciate life. This is another one that comes up in my daily ponderings every day, where you should appreciate the little things. I try to appreciate them every day. You give yourself a little bit of time, maybe before you go to bed, to recognize the great little things that happened in your life. Like tonight before I go to bed, I'm going to be like, oh, Mark wrote on my page and I'm a badass. Yay. So, but take time to really appreciate all the little things in your life. And number 13 is be kind to yourself. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to take time. You're your biggest critic. Every day, you're the one who's the most critical of what you're doing. That's like true of everybody, even of that friend Bob I was talking about, who loves himself so much. His biggest critic is himself, because he knows what's really in his heart, right? Everybody else is just speculating what's going on in there. So you're the one that can tell yourself the best lies, and you're the one who can hurt yourself the most. So be kind to yourself. Give yourself time. You can get there. My gosh, you can still get there. I'm so there and I love it here. All right, so I'm, believe it or not, I was concerned that because I was going to be on here by myself, that I might not be able to fill an hour, but this is just proof of how much I love to blabber because I only have 10 minutes left. All right, the final section of this episode is knowing when you're ready to get into a relationship again. So when you really get into your journey of loving yourself, when you really start to feel like I'm a great person, I'm somebody that someone should be happy to have. I'm not a consolation prize. I'm not something for somebody to settle for. I'm like first prize. Whoever gets me should be like, oh wow, I'm a lucky dude. I'm a lucky chick, right? When you start to love yourself and feel like you're a prize, you'll see your parameters for dating change. You know, like years ago, my parameter for dating was I didn't have to put a bag on his head and he liked me back. You know, that's all I cared about in my 20s, right? That's all any of us care about in our 20s. And that was the last time I dated before now. But even at the beginning of my single journey, it was a lot about, well, he's interested in me, so maybe I'll go on a date, right? And then I would figure out almost immediately, wow, this is a bad idea because he's a bad option for a date because he doesn't meet criteria that I never knew I had. So as you learn to love yourself, you'll realize that your parameters for dating change. And then you can think about things like this, like you're ready for dating if you know yourself. I know myself now. I know things like if he doesn't speak at all, like we have no conversation, then I'm not going to enjoy myself, and that's not going to be a relationship that I want to pursue. But most importantly, I figured out over the last year that if I'm going to date someone or be in a relationship with someone, they have to be my friend first. That I have to know that it's not superficial, because so much is superficial now, you know, and I don't want a relationship like that. I want a relationship based on friendship and kindness and respect. And so, you know, I know myself that that's what I want. I want to be with my best friend. So, other ways to know if you're ready for a relationship, you're ready to set boundaries. And when we don't love ourselves, we don't set boundaries because we want so desperately for them to love us. They're supposed to fill this empty hole, our self-love hole. They're supposed to fill it with their love. So we are ready to set boundaries when we love ourselves because we don't let people walk all over us and use us. You're willing to compromise. That's another sign you're ready to get into a relationship when you're single. And another one is you look at your old relationships and can figure out what went wrong. So that's the hard part. That's a hard part, is looking at the past relationships and saying, that was honestly a huge part of my journey, was looking at mine and Wade's relationship and saying, what went wrong here? Like, I recognized I was enabling so many behaviors in him, and that I recognized I didn't love myself. And that was one of our biggest problems, was that I thought I was standing up for myself by screaming and yelling and demanding things, but I wasn't. I was just causing problems because I didn't love myself. You know, so if you can look at your old relationship and admit what was wrong there and make an effort to change them, then you know you're ready for a new relationship. If you look at your old relationship and you're still hyper focused on the horrible things the other person did, you might not be ready to move on, right? So, and then the last sign that you're ready to be in a relationship again is that you're ready to take the risk. So, I think part of the reason why I was ready to have this episode today is because I've gotten to that point where I'm, after 3 years, after a lot of self-reflection and learning to love myself, I'm at the point now where I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to open myself up, and I want to find that again. But it'll be so much better this time than it ever was in the past, because I'm better, because I love me, because I don't settle for less than better. So that is not an invitation to DM me. Don't do it. That's not what happened just there. I'm just saying that I'm ready for my friend. All right, so Julio wrote again. Let's cover that real quick. Julio wrote, "It's great that you have the support of your family, especially your ex-husband. It's great to see that he's also healing and watching your podcast. Also, would he ever come onto your podcast?" Okay, first of all, he's kind of an introvert. So that would take some real doing for him to come on the show, especially because I'm sure that he would be concerned that people wouldn't like him because people like me. And I want everybody to know that I don't hold any ill will toward my ex-husband. That what happened happened. I can't go in the past and change our relationship. It hurt for a really long time, but I now accept that that was part of my journey. Going through that, us going through what we went through, I wouldn't be here right now without that chapter in my life. Yes, it was a really long chapter. And I don't want to pretend like every part of 20 years was bad, because that's not the truth. We have 4 beautiful children, wonderful, incredible adults. They're like, sorry, everybody else, are the most amazing people on the planet. And then we have 4 wonderful grandchildren, and a lot of years of good memories. We just never really fit. We never really fit, and we never could accept that we never really fit. So no matter how hard I tried to put the pieces together, they were never going to fit unless both of us grew and got better. And that didn't happen in our time frame. So, but I'm not mad. I don't hate him. He's not mad. He don't hate me. It's that, I think, is really shows self-love on both of our parts, because we don't hate the other person for what happened. We accept that as part of our journey. So excellent question though, Julio, especially for this episode, because I'm talking so much about being single. So why not recognize the most important relationship I ever had, outside of, like my family, the most important romantic relationship I ever had. So, thank you guys so much for, I'm at a record number of people watching today. And that's just on one page that I can see. I don't know what happened on YouTube, and I don't know what'll happen tomorrow when people tune in. And I don't know what happened on the Glitter Shoes and Happiness 2 page, but I do know I had a lot of feedback and a lot of participation and a lot of watchers today. So thank you guys for supporting me and Glitter Shoes and Happiness 2, and pardon my positivity, because this entire process is a big big part of my healing, a big part of my happiness journey, that sharing with you guys and being able to help a little bit. I have another quick pop-up because it's only 9:01. So I have another person who popped up. Why is the windshield bigger than the rear view mirror? Your future ahead is bigger than the past. You can't hate, gotta drop the rock. Holding into resentments is a heavy load. Exactly. What happened then, you move forward, you learn from it, and you accept that, when you get to a point where you love you, then you don't regret any of the stuff that happened then. Because I love where I'm at in my life now. I know people don't believe me a lot of times, but I genuinely am this happy. I know it seems like it's fake, but I really am this happy almost all the time. And it's because, I accept those things are in the past, and it's because I do little things to protect my happiness, and it's because I don't associate with toxic people, and it's because I embrace my life and my individuality and my faults and who I am, and I practice self-love, and so everybody can get here if you want to get here. You may not want to be as annoyingly happy as me, but uh you can be happy too. So next show is supposed to be in 2 weeks. I'm hoping it winds up being part 2 of our happiness after the narcissist, but we'll see what plays in. But the exciting part about it is I will be doing it remotely from Virginia. So hoping I don't have any problems with getting it running from down there, but it's my grandson Danny's birthday in Virginia that weekend. So I'm having the show same night, same time, but we're gonna do it from my hotel room in Virginia. So maybe I won't have it in the hotel room. Maybe I'll find a little spot in Williamsburg that looks pretty, drop the backdrop and have it somewhere like that. So but I'll update you all on what the topic will be in 2 weeks. Again, thank you all for being here with me. Thank you all for supporting me and happiness. And I'll see you again. Remember, until I see you, the key to your happiness is you. Bye, guys. Oops, see, I did that thing again where my phone is not